Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunswick, and today is a special episode. It is our final solo episode. I was going to say final episode of 2025. It's not. It's our final solo episode of 2025. And one of the things that I had wanted to do in 2025 was bring back the solo, but try and get them to a more condensed version. I know a lot of our episodes are long. It's funny because you guys are posting your like Spotify recap or whatever. And it's like people who are listening to She Slays, it's like, you have listened to 2,700 minutes of She Slays the Day. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. We'll try and get through this as quick as we can. We have best ofs coming up. It's my favorite part, partially just because I get a couple weeks off, but I do have to do the intros for them. So that's not true. I really don't get a couple weeks off, mostly because it's insane when I'm going back. We have a whole selection process of how we pick. Okay, it's mostly downloads. It's based on downloads. That's how we pick. But these episodes, I'm reminded like, oh my gosh, like that's right. This person was on. Like it's wild. 52. Like the number 52 doesn't seem like a lot. I think we haven't even done 350 episodes yet. We're coming up on it. But like when you scroll back through as a podcaster and you look at all those conversations, you are just kind of overwhelmed with how much work you've put into something. It's really cool. It's a cool experience. I'm sure that you like think about it if you did it in your clinics. Like if you just scrolled past through all of your marketing and all of that, you'd be like, wow. We did a lot this year. So I have a special ask. If you have not left a review for the podcast, or if it's been a minute since you've left a review for the podcast, for the best of episodes, I would really love to read some listener highlights, which reading your reviews, I'll call you out in a good way. Not in a bad way. I mean, unless you leave a 3-star, then I will call you out in a bad way. So I just want to read through some of the best reviews that we've gotten this year. So if you have not left a review recently, or if you never have, please just take a sec and write something. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. Just something simple would be super appreciated. Okay, so today's episode, I posted a story on Instagram giving 3 different options for this solo episode. One was what we ended up going with today, the mindset, work, and health habits that are going to get us to our best year ever financially. Then I offered if I was starting tomorrow from 0 followers, and then I offered like my 3 biggest mistakes of 2025. I cannot tell you how glad I am that the 3 biggest mistakes lost, and it lost by a landslide. First of all, it would have been difficult. It's not that I haven't made mistakes. Oh my God, I made mistakes. I just don't dwell on mistakes. I'm a very quick, like in the moment while I am learning the lesson, I am the grumpiest person in the world. I am a loser. I am not worthy of anybody's love. I am not successful. Everybody hates me. And I really glower, and you'd think that would stick with me. And it doesn't. I just move on in life. Once I move past of like, okay, how are we going to make this better? How are we going to make sure this never happens again? We just move past. So when I sit and have to look back of like, what mistakes did I make? I had to figure it out. It's also just a really cliche episode. So the one that technically won by a single vote, was, what would I do if I had to start over tomorrow at 0 followers? Here is my promise to you. I'm going to do that episode, but I want to do it with somebody even smarter than I am on Instagram and TikTok building. Okay. I could do it, but I want to know like what somebody else would say too. So I'm going to make that happen in like January. I'm going to get that recording to happen and stuff. So it will be coming. I promise. You wanted it, but at the end of the day, I was like, oh, I think that would be a better guest episode. So that means you get what I have in store for 2026. Lucky you. So we're going to pray, and then we are going to get into it. Dear God, as we look to 2026, holy cow, are we a bunch of silly little children who think we have control? We have the illusion of control. God, you're not mentioned as I'm thinking about it in this moment because I don't I don't talk about my faith at all in 2026 and my plans. And honestly, that is probably one of the biggest things that I do need to do in 2026 is turn to you more. This is not the Lauryn show, and I am so quick to beat myself up as failures and take the glory and the wins and like just turning to you, not just in the wins, but in those perceived failures and lessons and lows that are inevitably going to happen in 2026. God, I really hope that a year from now, I can look back and realize how many times I turned to you. In your name we pray. Amen. Ugh, sorry, I left God out of the whole 2026 plan outline. Whoop-shadoodle. So, a little like recap on a habit that I told you was on my I don't know, a couple episodes in an intro. I told you I'm working on my active listening. Now, when I am podcasting, I'm amazing at it because you have to be. It is a very important skill. You kind of learn so here's what you learn when you're podcasting or hosting is you don't really know when they're going to stop talking, which is life, right? And you want to make sure that you have a good question when they stop talking to keep them talking. Not, so when they're talking about something, you want to know what your next question is. And so you kind of have to learn to lock it in the back of your head. But then you have to keep listening and try and remember it because if they keep talking for another 5 minutes, the question you were going to ask 5 minutes ago is no longer relevant. And now you need a new, more relevant question on the new thing that they ended talking about. So I'm decent at it. Dare I say good at it as a podcast host. But in real life, not so much. Not so much. Like, I just want to talk about myself. Okay, I'm an Enneagram 3. Or I want you to shut up so I can fix your problem. So even if it's not talking about myself, it's like, okay, you can stop talking. I've already figured this out. Just let me talk now. Let me talk now. I like to talk. So I'm working on active listening. Well, 2 funny stories that happened yesterday alone as I'm working towards this. So one, Jenna Kutcher was in this mastermind that I'm a part of, and she was the guest speaker. And you were like, could raise your hand. And so I had my hand virtually raised on Zoom to ask a question. But I'm working on active listening and like trying to absorb. And so I didn't write my question down, but I had it in my head. And so then I was like, wow, this advice, this strategy she's giving is really good. And then she was like, okay, Lauryn, what's your question? And I was like, oh, I forgot it. I'm sorry. And a bunch of women laugh. And they're like, oh, that happens to me all the time. So then right as she's about to mute me and go on to the next person, I just shout at the screen, oh, wait, I just remembered. So anyways, then last night I'm out to drinks with a friend, and we're both, well, I'm 39, she's 40s. But it's just two perimenopause women with so many things to update. And it's and you've got these ADHD conversations of oh, I need to make sure. Okay, when you're done talking about, I'll remember that, but remind me this. I am thinking about bringing Post-it notes to the next wine night or just lunch date that I have with a friend. Am I crazy? This is how my life works of just write down on a Post-it note, and then I can be active listening. And then when they're done, I can be okay, what Post-it note? Oh, okay, let's talk about this one. So that's where I'm going then. Habit. This is a new habit before we get into the real meat here. This is an important one. So I don't come from money. And there's a whole bunch of things on the internet about new money versus old money. And new money is always a little tackier. They talk a lot about their money. They show their money a lot. Now, I don't want to self-judge, and I don't want to judge anybody else who is new money, because breaking generational patterns is really cool. But if I was going to say something that is on my goals list for 2026, is to learn to shut the fuck up a little bit when it comes to money. I don't need to use exact numbers. I don't know who, because basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to prove that you became something. You're trying to prove that you're worthy now. Like, I'm trying to prove to you on Instagram that you should trust me to help you run your clinic because I, have XYZ. You should trust me to listen to my podcast because it has this many downloads. You should trust me. And what's hard is it works on Instagram. So, like, what I don't want to do is I don't want to spend all of 2026 doing braggadocious posts. They work, but I don't like them. They don't feel like me. And so I have to try and figure that part out. So we'll see on that one. But especially in just one-on-one conversations with like friends, family, like who am I trying to prove what to? And like just figuring out, also my brain like doesn't tend to think through things extensively. So like the shortcut to prove that I know what I'm talking about is like, well, I just got 10,000 downloads on the last thing, right? But like it's shorthand. So instead of having to prove like, no, really, the podcast is this, or I'm really smart at this, or I'm really good at that, we can just use numbers to instantly get credibility. And when your numbers start to become impressive, it's easy. You just get to be like, well, I made this much last month. You should listen to me. And it's like, ugh. And like I said, those posts do really well and they sell. But I just don't know that I want to keep doing it. So that's a journey. That's like another real personal journey in 20. Oh, the other reason with that though too is like I live in a small town. And I don't know if it's safe for me to be like on Instagram and Facebook. Like I have a very recognizable, because our clinic ads are everywhere. Like somebody can find out where I live in a heartbeat. Like, I don't know if it's safe to be talking. Like there's not a lot of wealthy people in my town. So I don't know. Those are my two habits. Active listening with Post-it notes for my ADHD, and shut the fuck up about your success. Like figure out a more mature way to get trust from people. There we go. All right. So when we are talking about these goals and where we're getting to in things in life, I need you to remember, because I know you're busy, that I also have a huge clinic, that we have some big changes coming to in 2026 that are going to be a pain in the ass to problem solve and get through. And we'll get through them, and they're great. But I also want my clinic to have its best year ever. I also want my staff to like decrease employee turnover. Like I also want all of that in the clinic. So like let's get real. I am planning on scaling online while also running a clinic. So you can do this also. You can absolutely, like, when I'm talking to people about building wealth, it kind of goes into our next kind of like thing of getting uncomfortable. Of like, there's nothing that's going to be comfortable about this year. It's not like I'm going to sit back and this is all going to be easier for me than it would be for somebody else. Well, I did marry really well, so that's not true. It might be easier for me than some of you who husbands don't have the skills when it comes to this. But my husband can't renovate my kitchen, so there we go. Or change my oil in my car. So you have other things. So we all have a lot of things going on, right? And before I start to give you the strategy of how we're going to get to $1.5 million next year in the online business, I want to address the meta weirdness that is, you guys are the people I'm selling to. Now, this happens all the time, right? Like there are pretty much every influencer online who is talking about how much money they made last month, it was on you. Like, they did it by selling you a program. There's very few of the wealthy. I mean, there are them. Like, there are wealthy people out there who are like, you know, I made $2 million as a hedge fund manager last month. Great. Really? Most of the time, not though. Content creators are making money and talking about it as their content because it's part of their scale plan. So it is a little weird. And so I am gonna kind of say that, like, I'm showing how the sausage is made here. And it's weird, but it's also honest. I want to tell you how I sell so you can learn, so you can apply these strategies to your businesses. I believe it's important in having really transparency. I do not want a fake version of this podcast ever. So you're going to get the honest truth. So I ask for your forgiveness if it's weird hearing how I plan on selling to you in 2026. We'll move on. All right. So step one is we're all going to need a little bit of a mindset shift. If you are, and you know I'm not a mindset girly, so this is not going to be a whole mindset episode, but what we do need to address when you are looking at your next year and you are planning on getting fitter than you've ever gotten before, making more money than you've ever made before, doing something bigger, more expanding than you've ever done before. If you think you're going to get there by staying comfortable, then you won't get there, okay? Every high achiever hits a ceiling, and the ceiling is always going to be inside you first. So your comfort zone is likely how much you weigh and what your bank statement is. That is likely your comfort zone. If you have been kind of stagnant. Now, if you're in your first year of practice, or if the scale is moving one way or the other, you're getting stronger, whatever it is, that's great. But if you're stagnant, it's because you're actually comfortable. And this is a really hard pill for people to swallow because a lot of people identify as broke. And they're like, believe me, I'm not comfortable. And I'm like, then get a second job. Then start a side hustle. Then go do a screening. Walk door to door. Like, the things you did when you first started your practice, are you not doing them anymore? Like, you just have to acknowledge it first, for out of the gate. Like, you were hungrier when you had 0 patients. So I know you're like, no, we're only seeing 100 patients and I want to see 200. Well, how'd you get to 100? What did you do? Because I guarantee you pulled back because you're comfortable. So a quantum leap ultimately looks, I had a whole episode about this earlier in the year on quantum leaps and how deeply uncomfortable they are. And you think that, like, they're like very glamorous online. But in real life, they are very uncomfortable. There's scrutiny. There's increased responsibility, a ton of risk. Like, it's very nauseating, actually, when you are doing this, because, you know, that whole like phrase, like, oh, shoot for that and shoot for the moon and you'll fall amongst the stars. Like, that sounds glamorous. That sounds like the entire experience is going to be beautiful. But ultimately, you have to strap your motherfucking ass to a rocket and go, we have to go how fast to get out of orbit? Is there any risk I could die in this? Oh, yes, absolutely. Is there any risk I could lose everything in this? Oh, yes, there is. Could I become embarrassed? Are other people watching me do this and like watching me fail? Oh, they are. Cool. Now, in the end, it's great. This was our biggest financial year ever. Like, it's fucking great. Do I have a heart condition now? Yes. Have I been on the floor with like crying because a launch wasn't going the way that I wanted to? Yep. Have I wanted to yell and scream and fire everybody on my staff at some point, including my husband? Yep. Like, It is, yes, when you are hanging out amongst the stars and you're like, well, cheers to 2025. We didn't quite get to the moon, but holy cow, look at what we've done. But there is a period while you are going for that that makes you just so uncomfortable. So you are going to really have to get why you deserve and why you really want that goal. You're going to have to figure it out, because what's going to happen is you're going to start to get close to it and you will get comfortable and you will pull back. And you need to be so set on why you want this so you can push through that barrier. So one of the biggest things that happened this year and is happening next year, this is the big one. There's two big things that are happening for 2026. This one and the next thing I tell you. I started to treat my online business like a real business. For years, the online business was fun money. It was just like, this is great. Oh my God, we're the number one podcast. Like, yay, this is great. And you know, the first couple of years it didn't make money, and that's okay. We were just building, right? This is what a lot of my students are in the membership are going through. Like, we're just getting some of these basics down. How do we launch a podcast? How do we find guests? How do we get our first sponsorship? How do we grow our email list? All of that stuff. We're just getting down. And then it was like, oh, cool. Like, for a while, it made low six figures. And that was awesome. Like, that was awesome because it really was just a podcast at that point. Like, neat. And then we started doing one program a year, and it was every January. And that was cool because then instead of only 100,000, now it's like, sweet, we're making like 300,000. This is like the shut the fuck up. Like, I don't need to tell you those numbers, but like maybe but this whole episode is like labeled how I'm going to, no, I don't actually want that to be the title. The editor, Jacob, please do not put 1.5 million in the, I don't know, maybe that would get more downloads. I don't know. Yeah, as you can see, I'm struggling with this. I know that if I put how I'm going to get to $1.5 million in my online business next year as the name of an episode, it's going to get more. But that's kind of going against what I said I wanted to do. Anyways, I digress. For this, all intents and purposes, we're going to say I'll learn to shut the fuck up about money after this episode. So yes, for a while, it was like, sweet, now we're making like 300 grand a year. This is great. All we had to do was work really, really hard Q1. Nice. And then this year, everything kind of changed. It got serious. It was like, okay, I want to get to 7 figures. And previously we'd only done like 400K working one quarter. And I was like, I want to go for it. And so instead of 1 launch, we did 5. We hired an online business manager. I hired another VA. I invested in a $30,000 mastermind, somewhere between $6,000 to $5,000 like training programs. We switched platforms, which was a huge thing. We created a different like background with a better, if you couldn't see that, if you're watching on Spotify or on YouTube, we wanted a more aesthetic thing. You know, we like really, really went for it. Now, we're not going to get to 7 figures this year. That's okay. We got really, really damn close. And there were a lot of changes. But I had to start looking at this side gig as a real business. Now, in my real business, in my clinic, you know, this looks like really learning how to delegate. You need to have a plan. So we didn't have an annual plan until September, but now we're doing another annual plan in just a week. So having an annual plan for this, just like you do for your business, making sure that every employee understands your key KPIs. Oh, can you say key PI? Because KPI stands for key performance indicators. Because we have like multiple, right? So like in our clinic, we have 16, but we have 4 main. That's the word you use. I think 4 key KPIs is an extra funny thing. But so everybody on our staff needs to know, yep, this is what success looks like to a metric. This is how many downloads we're looking for. This is how many new emails we're looking to grow our list by. This is how many launches we're going to have. This is how many people we need in those launches. This is how much revenue we want from each launch. Everybody on the team, it's laid out with a plan on how to get there. Now, we have a couple main KPIs, and that's important because I don't want my VAs or my online business manager to be chasing podcast downloads when I'm like, no, I'm not so worried about that. I am not so worried about having multiple brand deals. 1 or 2 high end, I was almost going to say the amount. 1 or 2 high end brand deals is all I have bandwidth for if I'm doing 4 or 5 launches. Well, there's going to be 4 launches next year. Well, that's not true because you got the boot camps and anyway, so it's like, that's all I have bandwidth for. If you're going to want to work with me as a brand in 2026, you're going to pay Beyonce prices. Oh, wait, is she canceled? Are we allowed? I have to find a different Taylor prices? Yeah, that's because I know how to promote a product appropriately. And if I'm doing that for you, that means I'm taking away from selling my own things. So like to work with me as a brand, I have space for 1 or 2, but it's going to be a higher end situation, and it has to be. So like really understanding that what are the things that are going to move the needle? What's the most important thing that you're going after? And what moves the needle there? Now I'm going to, for anybody who is like an online person, or you can do this for an event or things like that, but you just probably don't have the stats. If you have stats, you can do stuff like this. So for instance, here's an example of KPI that we are using to help reach our annual revenue goal. So we have 4 launches. And this is the stuff that gets weird for you guys. Okay. Like when I was talking about in the beginning, like, I'm going to pull back the curtain and show you how the sausage is made. You're about to see the sausage. So for the launches. So for each launch, okay, we have 2 of the CEO program and 2 of the personal brand program, and they alternate. And we have a good, better, best goal for each of those launches. Okay. Now, I'm not going to tell you what those numbers are, but I can tell you that you can work backwards when you have data of what needs to happen. So let's say that I want 20 people to sign up for my program. Well, I know that I have a 70% conversion on phone calls. Now, this has to do with I do a clarity call to make sure that a program makes sense for someone. So about 15% of the time, 10 to 15%, I say, because we've gotten our messaging down better, so like most people opt out. So like, let's say 10% of the time, they're not a good fit. And I tell them that, okay? Then the other 20% of the time, they are a good fit, but they just can't figure out how to make it work financially or time-wise in their life. And those ones suck because you can help them, but they can't get out of their own way. Or maybe, whatever. So if I know that if I want 20, oh shit, I did not prepare for math, and I have a 70% conversion, I need to schedule 30 phone calls? No, that would be let's just pretend I have a 66% conversion. So I would have to schedule 30 phone calls. I would have to do 30 phone calls, 30 clarity calls to get 20 people to sign up with my previous conversions. Now from there, then you go, okay, well, how do you get 30 people? All right, so I need to clear my schedule. So when I'm looking at my launch, I need to make sure I have time for that, hours set aside for that, enough availability. You probably need at least 40 time slots for 30 people to choose from. Then you go like, all right, well, what's your conversion from a webinar to that? Now, from a webinar, a lot of times you're lucky if you get 25%. So that means I need at least 100 and, oh shit, over 100 is a 30 times of 120 people to get on my webinar for me to convince 30 of them to schedule a clarity call. Okay, we keep moving backwards. Hopefully this is interesting to you, but whatever, I'm almost done. So to get 120 people to register, we have our previous cost per lead and ad strategy and ad data. So we can look and go, we need to spend this amount, this many days out on this many ads, and Lauryn needs to do this many posts to get at least 120 people to sign up. That's the kind of intention. Like honestly, this year, we had the launches, but like the launches were just like hope and pray, baby. Like, how many people do you want to come to your webinar, Lauryn? 1,000. I want 1,000 people. And Kirby was like, where did you come up with that number? I'm like, because I want to feel special and validated, and 1,000 will make me feel special and validated. I did not get 1,000. Maybe I would have made $1 million this year if I would have had 1,000. So that's what the kind of strategy. Now, I want you to be able to do that for your business, because not all of you have online businesses. So you're like, cool, I'm glad I wasted 5 minutes of my life. No. Like, you can do this if you want to hit a new revenue goal next year in your business. Okay, same thing here, all right? So you have your average office visit average, how much money you collect from each patient. You have how long your patients, like the lifetime journey, the cycle, right? So if you take that, and then you know how many new patients you plug in, like, and you know how much money you want to make. It's just a math equation between those 4 things of like, if you want to make $1 million, well, gross. Anybody who thinks that I said gross, like I'm talking about gross income, gross revenue, not like ew. It's cute. So if you want to make $1 million, like 7 figures gross revenue, that's just going like, okay, well, we average $50 per clinic visit. And if we have 30 new patients a month, and an average new patient sticks around for 60 visits, but each of those visits, they're paying this, right? You just multiply those 3. And if it gives you $1 million, great. Those are your goals. You need 30 patients. You need to collect on average 50 of them, and you need to retain them for however long I said. So you can apply that same thing, but literally up until 5 years ago, and maybe more, I've been in practice a while now, like for the first 5 years of practice, that's for sure. The first 5 years of practice, I was just like, I just want to make more money. And it's like, well, how are you going to do that? I'm going to see more people. I'm just going to see more people. That's my plan. It's like, well, how are you going to see more people? I'm going to get more new patients. And that's where a lot of docs live. And it's like, well, that is not strategy. That's not strategy. That's not scaling. So you can take that and apply it. All right. So the other thing that is going to be unfortunately really required of me in 2026 is the health shift isn't optional anymore. This is a great way to say goodbye to my 30s as I turn 40 next September. This last year, on my vision board, like I had health goals. I was going to get to that weight. I was going to get strong. I was going to, do all that stuff. I was going to sauna more. I was going to get more flexible. I was going to start doing yoga. I was going to take vitamins. I was going to drink water. There's lots of stuff that I was going to do this year. Stop drinking Diet Coke. I kind of did. Not really. And some of the habits I did. And a lot I didn't. I'm going to cut back on alcohol, cut back on caffeine. And in the last couple months, on October 28th, I went in for a cardiology appointment because around the time of my cycle, I was noticing a lot of like heart palpitations. And there were a couple episodes that were alarming. I didn't go to the ER because I'm a stubborn. I knew I wasn't having a heart attack. Okay. So I expected to go into the cardiologist, and they were like, oh, it sounds like you were in AFib. We'll give you a medication, because like I almost couldn't work because I would, like, if I stood up, I would pass out or want to pass out. And so I was expecting them to give me a medication that would stop the AFib on days when I was having AFib. Well, that's not what happened. I went in, they said, oh, you're in constant AFib. I'm like, I'm in AFib right now. And they're like, yeah, you're in AFib right now. Can you tell you're in AFib? And I'm like, no, I can't tell I'm in AFib. And they're like, well, that's concerning. What's your heart rate? I'm like, 127. And they're like, is that fast for you? I'm like, no, that's normal for me. And they're like, okay, that's not normal. And so for the last month and a half has been this tests to figure out. They can't figure out why I'm in AFib. They know there's no blockage. And so I have to get my heart like shocked into rhythm on December 15th. And they're like, it's no big deal. And I'm like, this seems like a really big freaking deal. And they're like, well, it is weird that you're 39 and dealing with this. That's for sure. I'm doing blood work with functional med. We're doing a whole bunch of things before you guys all get freaked out. I'm doing all the things. So yeah, so that's where we're at. So since October 28th, it has come to my attention that maybe meditation, sauna, yoga, some of these health things, cutting back on caffeine and alcohol, maybe they are no longer optional. And so here's kind of where I think we need to think about high achievers. Okay. So if you're a high achiever out there, you're either young enough and been able to get away with shit, or you're nodding your head going, yep. So there have been many, many times that I have listened to a motivational speaker, a very wealthy, influential person being interviewed about their health habits. And it comes out that they do not drink alcohol, that they do not watch Netflix, that they sauna 4 times a week, whatever it is, right? They have this really impressive list of health topics. I am pretty confident, based on the last 6 weeks, that they got that way because there was a moment in their life where they were sitting across from a doctor who said something's got to give. It's either the stress, and they probably responded right away. I love my job. It's not stress. I'm not giving that up. And they're like, okay. Or your relationships, or the alcohol, or the sugar, or the Netflix, or the smoking, or the caffeine, or like sleeping in instead of working out. Like something's got to give, because you cannot. Your body keeps the score. It's a really good book. And you guys want to hear a really cool, funny thing? So I bought the book a long time ago. Still haven't read it. I should. I really should. Because from September through the time I went to my cardiology appointment, I saw that book in people's hands 6 times. It was behind my therapist on her shelf. She doesn't even display books. It was like people reading it by the pool, people in the airport, like really weird shit, listening to a podcast and somebody would bring it up. Like it was like, okay, so I still haven't read it. I should, but I think it was the universe kind of saying like, you're going to get serious about this, whether you like it or not. So the body does keep the score, apparently. And I think that this is where we're at as high individuals who are, I'm literally telling you, to get to the shit I want to do in 2026, I'm going to have to get uncomfortable. Well, if you already have someone being like, no, you're so stressed already. Like, no, like, don't. Like, okay, well, I'm doing it, but I'm not an idiot. So if I'm going to do that, do I have to start meditating? Yes. Do I have to start dissociating from failures and learning to give them up to God? Yes. That originally wasn't in this outline, but I think it would have come in authentically. Yeah, I do. That's not going to be optional. I'm going to have, another thing, if you hear a high achiever and they talk about how intentional they are with their date night, with their relationships, they're doing it because they have to. Like, do you understand? Because I guarantee you, most of them were sitting face to face with their spouse and their spouse said, this shit ain't gonna fly. You gotta change or else this marriage isn't gonna work. And I don't know how much any of you know about me or how much Kirby and I have alluded to this in the past, but I already had that reckoning a couple years ago. So I do put my marriage first because I almost lost it at the extent of me seeking and seeking and seeking. We're good. We've never been better. That was 5, 6, I don't know how many years ago at this point, but yeah. So when you hear someone who is like, we go to church together, we touch, we kiss, we have sex this many times a week, we write each other love notes, we do this, we know each other's, it's because It's not because they have extra time. It's not because that high achiever is just so much more thoughtful than you. More than likely, it's because they're like, yeah, because I was going to put work before everything else. And my wife or my husband and the marriage therapist said that something's got to change. Like, you cannot keep going forward this way. So I will end this by asking, if you are looking to 2026 and wanting to do something uncomfortable, step one, do you realize and do you truly understand you're going to have to get uncomfortable to achieve that? That's step one. If you are just making a vision board of like, these are the amazing goals that I've never achieved before in my life, but somehow life's just going to work out for me. Like, I'm just going to manifest it and it's going to be super comfy the whole time. You know, that's not true, right? You know, a year from now, you might have gotten close to it, but you're not going to get. So like, you're going to have to get uncomfortable and realize that right now, if you are in a stagnant period, financially, your health wise, your relationship, maybe your marriage sucks right now and you're not even sure you're still going to be married by the time we ring in 2027, like, you're going to have to do stuff that are going to make you uncomfortable. Okay. So then the next step is really looking at each of the goals that you have and acting as if it's all on the line for it. Okay. So like, if you have a financial goal, let's say, let's pick, say it's a financial goal. What do you need to level up in your health in order to be able to focus on that? What do you need to prioritize for your marriage in order for you to do that? What kind of a relationship with God do you need to have in order to get that? Now, you may need to actually think that God cares that you get to it. I'm not convinced either way, to be honest. I've had people, you've heard them on the podcast, be like, no, that's your money mindset. Why wouldn't God want you to be rich? I don't think he doesn't want me to be rich, but like, yeah. So I'm still split on that. I think that God is okay with me being successful and using the gifts he's given me. I think that I need to continue doing work with him, that I am going to do this through him, not through me, that I am going to do this and always be looking back and grateful and giving and always growing as a better person. In that place, I think God's like, yeah, girl, go get it then. As long as all that, we're good. As long as you're touching base with me frequently, as long as you're not trying to do this on your own, let's go do this together. So that's what needs to happen in my spiritual relationship. But yeah, so like, look at your goals and look at what needs to go, right? Like, and it's going to be hard, and that's okay. If it's not hard, then your goal probably isn't that big. And that's okay. Like, you can just do little baby steps. There's nothing saying that you need to like have a quantum fucking leap every single year, right? Like, it's okay if, like, God forbid, your goal this year is that you're actually going to like leave your job and start homeschooling. Like, oh, that's not sexy and like flashy. Although I would say, hey, we could start a personal brand on that and you could start making money online. But I'm just saying, like, whatever your goal is, it's okay if it's not financial. It's okay if it's not health, and it's not that flashy thing. So thank you. I know I went over. I suck at this game, but thank you so much for an incredible year. We're still going to get Kirby's and my episode in here somewhere. We've got best of. A reminder, if you love this podcast, please leave a review, screenshot it, do something. It really would mean the world to me, as a thank you for listening to the last year. Maybe this was your first episode. Great. Hey, welcome. You don't leave a review from your first episode. So until next week, She Slayers. Bye.